Last week I went to see The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, which has recently opened at the Gielgud Theatre in London. I went to see the show not ever having watched the movie, so I didn't really know what to expect. I'd read a few mixed online reviews before I went to see it, with some people saying that it was the best show they'd seen in a while, and some people saying that they hated it so much that they left at the interval. So I knew that it was going to be a Marmite show, and that, to be honest, actually excited me. Because for some weird reason, I usually end up loving the shows that a lot of people don't rate. And just in general, I think it's really exciting to see a show that's received a lot of mixed reactions from people, because you never really know what to expect until you actually see the show. Anyway, like I said, I hadn't watched the film before I went to see the show, and I still haven't watched the film, so before the show started I bought myself a program to kind of read a bit about the plot, so by the time the show started I knew that the show was going to be about a love story. The show starts with Miao Miao, who plays Maîtresse, coming into the audience and giving a bit of information about France and Cherbourg and the French language in general, which I thought was pretty cool. There's actually quite a bit of audience reaction going on in the beginning of the show, which everyone seemed to actually really like, and I loved it as well. I thought it was a brilliant opening, because I think it's important for a show to be able to grab your attention from the very beginning of the show, and Umbrellas of Cherbourg definitely did that. It only took Miao Miao a couple of minutes before the audience were all on her side, laughing with her and enjoying her charm as Maîtresse. I mean, she really managed to get the audience in the mood, and I remember looking around me during those first few minutes, and everyone around me was smiling. Anyway, after that first section, the show becomes slightly more different. We're introduced to Cherbourg and the two young lovers, who are the main characters, and to be quite honest with you, I spent the first 10 minutes after Miao Miao section was over thinking that maybe the critiques were right and maybe this show isn't really for me. But I gradually warmed to the characters and became used to the singing style of the show and started to really enjoy it. The character of Geneviève, which is the young lover in the show, was played by Carly Borden, who I thought was really, really good. I thought she really suited the role and acted it very well. She also had a lovely voice, which really helped because most of the show, well, pretty much all of it, is sung through. The guy playing her lover, Andrew Durand, was also very good. He had to ride a bike around the stage in quite a lot of the scenes, and for some weird reason, every time he was on the bike I was thinking, oh my god, what if he falls? Like, I was just very nervous that he might fall any minute. I don't know why. But he was great. The two lovers worked really well together. The guy's aunt was played by Dominic Marsh, which is a guy, and I don't really know why. I mean, I've never watched the film, like I said, so I don't know if that's how it's supposed to be, but it was a bit weird at first that, you know, the character of an aunt was played by a man, but in all honesty it worked really well. And the actor playing the aunt, Dominic Marsh, was very, very good, and actually quite funny at some parts, which I really enjoyed. Speaking of weird things, there were actually quite a few weird things going on stage. For example, instead of having real kids on stage, they had these like kid-shaped dolls or puppets or whatever who actually genuinely looked real, but obviously they weren't, and that was quite freaky at first. But then again, like the aunt thing, you slowly start to appreciate these weird elements in the show, and that's actually what makes the show special in my opinion. Joanna Riding, who plays Genevieve's mom, Madame Emery, was excellent, I thought. She was able to show both the funny parts of her character and the slightly more emotional, sad parts of her character really well, and her voice is just amazing. I also thought she had a great chemistry with Geneviève, Carly Borden. I thought the whole mother-daughter thing worked really well and was very, very believable. I also have to mention the sailors, who just randomly picked up some of the cast members every now and then and just in general did some random things, but I thought they were brilliant, and I love the whole idea of them just being there for the purpose of entertainment. The show has quite a sad ending, and towards the end of it I found myself surprisingly attached to the characters, which is always a good sign. But yeah, I nearly cried. I had tears in my eyes at some point, I think, but I didn't cry, but I did feel a lot for the characters, which is always good for a show to be able to get those emotions out from the audience. Towards the end of the show, Miao Miao, who plays Maîtresse, makes an appearance again, telling us about how life can be harsh sometimes, and she says the c'est la vie line, which I thought was great. It's weird because it wasn't actually until the show ended that I realised how much I'd enjoyed the show. I mean, even up to just a few minutes before the show ended, I was still thinking in my head, unsure and trying to decide how I felt about the musical. But as soon as the characters all came on stage for the bows, I realised how much I'd actually loved the show and how much I didn't really want to leave the theatre. For some reason, the show actually felt quite short. I don't know, maybe it's because I really enjoyed it. Because the thing is, I'd read a few online reviews saying that the show drags a bit at some points, which I didn't think at all. To be honest, I didn't notice any unnecessary parts in the show. I thought everything that was in the show was perfect. Also, I have to say about the music, I thought the music was lovely, and some of the songs in the show are actually quite catchy. Obviously there's no like big massive songs like Defying Gravity or On My Own. Because there's no actual dialogue and everything, all the conversations are just pretty much sung, they couldn't really have those massive big songs, but the music overall I thought was quite simple but very nice. Anyway, The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, it's official opening night tonight, press night or whatever, at the Gielgud Theatre in London. So yeah, I actually saw the show during the previews. I think it was the last week of previews. But yeah, I mean, if anything, the show has probably improved since I saw it, even though I thought it was amazing when I saw it as it was. And I really hope it gets some great reviews because I think it's a great show and I hope it gets the chance to stay in the West End for quite a while. It's just a very different, unique show and I think it's nice to have a bit of variety in the West End. And this show definitely brings a new style of musical to the West End, which I think is great. I mean, what's the point in having a bunch of very similar shows in the West End? What's the fun in that? I think it's great to have, different types of shows in the West End. And like I said, The Umbrellas of Cherbourg is very different. And although it's a Marmite show and not everyone's going to like it, I definitely recommend it. Don't be put off by the negative comments about it. After all, you're never going to know whether or not the show's for you unless you see it yourself, and I definitely think it's worth a try. You never know, you might actually end up loving it like I did.